I know you're a big fan of YouTube. What is
Who
YouTube
isn't?
telling you here about this massive move that we're seeing here in tech stocks
Did
today?
you see? Well, did you see what YouTube did in terms of revenue?
I did see what
earlier
YouTube
this
did
week
in terms of revenue and ad revenue. I mean, they have a lock
Like,
on you, right? You click on.
it's
I mean, it's just
incredible.
ads, right? I mean, that's all YouTube is now. It's ads. It happens to have
Well,
some content.
unless
mixed
you pay
in
for the
between.
subscription.
And Scarlet
I gotta
brings up
pay
a
for
really
this
good
now?
point. Mandeep came on our show
Same?
right after those Alphabet earnings, and he told us, look at how many people are actually buying the YouTube subscriptions.
Right.
It's a huge boon for the company.
Can you share those passwords or not? Just asking for a friend.
It's actually, I will tell you, it's actually really difficult to do because it's tied to your Google
Tied to your-
account.
I know.
So do you want,
I try,
I'm not going to take your Gmail account password. You're not going to give that to anyone. Geographically, though, they also make it difficult. Don't ask me how I
No
know
one has that
about
one.
this.
Not even my wife.
Don't ask me how I know.
You know what, guys, though, not even just big tech. I was actually looking at when it came to energy companies this week. Obviously, you had Exxon, Chevron reporting earlier this morning. But if you look at the S&P 500, excluding energy companies, actually posting double-digit growth for the third quarter at around 10%. So not as low as what people were anticipating. So it's more of the commodities side drag in those sectors that were driving those estimates lower coming into earnings.
Are you having a good time today, Jess?
I am. It's so much fun. It's always great being in here.
Just checking. I listened to you guys pretty religiously right before our show goes on the air, but then I have to switch to TV.
Can't do two things at once. Come on.
All right, let's get to the closing bells here on the day and on the week. Green across the screen on the day, red across the screen on the week, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average up about 0.7% on the day, but that's not good enough here to give it a weekly gain. In the red on the week, as is the S&P 500, despite the 0.4% gain that we saw on the day. Similar story for the Nasdaq, up 0.8% on the day, down about 1.5% on the week, and the Russell 2000, similar story, 0.6% gain here on this Friday afternoon.
Yeah, lost quite a bit of steam throughout the day. The S&P 500 was as high as 1.2% earlier in the session, but closing at just over 0.4%. Taking a deeper look in there, we're pretty much split between gainers and losses, gainers and losers, gainers and decliners, whatever you want to call it, in the S&P 500. 248 moving to the upside, 253, Scarlet, to the downside.
Yeah, similar split when you look at the industry groups, too. Consumer discretionary were the best performers, thanks to gains in Lululemon and Amazon. Tech also doing pretty well, up 0.6%. Healthcare is the third best performer. On the downside, you've got utilities, one of the smallest sectors in the S&P, losing 2.25%. REITs and energy also losing ground.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of those gainers today. Usually I'm on decliners, but when Carol's out, I get to talk about what's in the green. Amazon up more than 6% today. Absolutely surging. This after the company reported third quarter results. They beat expectations. They gave a solid outlook. Margins, AWS, the international retail business. Analysts cited all those things and why the stock should be moving higher today. Third quarter revenue increased 11%, exceeding estimates. Operating profit came in at $17.4 billion. Estimates were for $14.7 billion. Also, Intel. A lot of times this year, it's been one of my decliners. This day, it's a gainer, up more than 7%. They surged, the shares did, after the company gave a revenue forecast that was slightly above estimates. People now more optimistic that they could see some sort of turnaround at the company. Fourth quarter revenue projected to be $13.3 to $14.3 billion. Analysts were saying it could be about $13.6 billion.
Wouldn't this be like the greatest comeback story if this really stuck?
It really would be.
Because everybody was counting this out, counting Gesslinger out, and now you look what's happened.
Yeah, but I mean, they've got a tough road ahead of them.
It's early days.
It is, and there hasn't been a lot of patience from investors, although maybe there has been, because it's been a couple of years since this company sort of started this turnaround. That's why they brought Pat Gelsinger in.
Yeah.
But he did say the company's stronger altogether. He told Ian King that yesterday. So sort of dispelling those reports that they do some sort of spinoff. Also remains to be seen what kind of support, if any, it gets from the U.S. government. And this is a very important company to the U.S. Speaking of another gainer, Globalstar, it's a satellite company. It was higher today. Has to do with Apple. Shares soaring as much as 46% earlier in the session. The company agreed to deliver expanded services to Apple over a new mobile satellite service network. It's a new satellite constellation, more ground infrastructure, increased global licensing. And then Apple also investing up to $1.5 billion into the company as part of the news. Shares higher today by more than 32%.
I'm also fascinated by this because I remember like 30 years ago or so, satellite phones communication was supposed to be a thing, and of course, other than like oligarchs and completely
it was for a little
people, no one really adopted it. But maybe this time it's going to be different.
But I think it will be. Right now, the idea with this is that it's like SOS emergency stuff. When you're not within range, which I think is a really great feature. But you get to the point where this is just completely covers the globe, and it's at a price point that's affordable, you're never somewhere without a signal then.
But why is it with the SOS? I know that's supposed to be for emergencies, but like if I'm on the train, I can't see my my Twitter feed or anything.
That's an SOS if I've ever heard of it.
Oh man, not
important
good.
I don't know if the satellite service works underground, Romaine.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I'll go ahead. I'll grab the decliners here. Looking at AES is actually, I'm going to point that out. If you use the MOV function, it's the worst decliner today in the S&P 500. This is a utility and power generation company. Down about 11%. Its worst day since March 2020. Actually also dragging the utility sector lower. So that sector was the worst performer today. So this company has a market cap just over $10 billion. Earlier this week, though, its adjusted third quarter EPS did beat estimates. But when you see the trade of more growth stocks powering things higher, kind of dragged lower on utilities today. But moving over, also another stock that we were talking a lot about today is Super Micro. That stock down 11%, worst day since actually just the prior day, but on a weekly basis, actually dropped 45% this week.
So it's context,
right, exactly the context. Worst day since yesterday, but worst week actually since it dropped 45% on record. If you go back, actually going back to about 2007.
Sad? This is like the worst performer in the S&P 500.
It's also the newest.
But that's the thing. There were a lot of people that said it shouldn't even be in the S&P 500.
Right, it got added back in March.
And everyone was like, why? Too soon? And now apparently it was too soon.
Yeah, and it powered past those small caps and graduated very quickly. But unfortunately, it went from the best performer to now, among the worst performers here. But the company did say it had lost its second quarter auditor in less than 2 years. And actually, the company also delayed its filing in its latest annual report, saying it'll provide a business update for its most recent quarter, actually on Tuesday, which does fall the same day as Election Day, of course. And then lastly, looking at IAMCOR, it's actually shares slumping here, actually down almost 8%, worst day since May 3rd, 2023.
Yeah.
Actually, its first quarter net sales came in below expectations, guys.
All right, let's take a quick look at yields. We were talking about the second straight week of declines that we saw in stocks, second straight week of declines that we saw in Treasury prices. That means yields higher for a second straight week. In fact, right now, you're talking about a 10-year yield that is now back to its highest levels going back to early July. That 2-year yield, the most rate-sensitive part of the curve, back to its highest level since the end of July, raising a lot of questions here about what the positioning is heading not just into the election next week, but more importantly, that Fed meeting that has now been pushed back to Thursday of next week.
Okay, Fed meeting next week, Election Day Tuesday. Before that, the New York City Marathon on Sunday. Do we have anyone in here over there who has run the marathon? Romaine, Scarlet?
Nope.
Not me.
Nope.
Jess, any plans to?
I have not. However, I live near where they're putting up all the barricades, so I had to dodge all that this morning, trying to get here quickly to put out some hots for the jobs report.
Well, it turns out that the business of running really hot right now. Yes, it's a cyclical business, but more than 165,000 applicants applied to be in the marathon, 30% more than last year. It only trails the 50th anniversary back in 2020 for the most in history, Scarlett.
Yeah, well, exercising or training for the marathon is cheap, right? You don't have to actually buy any new equipment.
It depends on how you value your time.
have you, I was about to say, have you ever met like a marathon runner? The amount of money they spend on like crazy outfits and stuff.
True, but they don't have to buy separate equipment. You just go out running, right?
I think Katie Greifeld has like 25 pairs of hose.
That's true.
And she wears through them like every other day.
We should know, by the way, that the marathon is the same day as the time change. So I don't know if you guys remember that episode of Seinfeld. You better make sure that you set your alarm properly, right?
My favorite show.
All right. The other story that we're keeping on our eye on today is, those greatest hit albums like the best of the Eagles or the best of Billy Joel. They're a bestseller and they're doing really well, but actually only if you compare it to recent history.
Wait, what?
Yeah, these greatest hits albums, they sell really well, but actually it's only because you're looking at who they sell to.
I feel like this is a generational thing, Scarlett. I don't mean, sorry, I know Tim's a young guy. Jess, I think, is even younger. But there was a time, guys, back in the old days where if you wanted,
we're not going down
a
that
compilation
road.
of all your favorites, you went to the store, you got the Now recordings or the, I Love Disco, 1985 or whatever. Now you don't need to do that. You just shuffle on Spotify or on Apple Music or something like that.
But some people do buy the greatest hit albums, like as collector items, right? I mean, it's for super fans.
Like people under the age of 50?
I think we're way past now. That's what I call music 91.
That's what I call
right.
music.
Wait, Jess, do you have
Could
any
that not
greatest
do
hit
well
albums?
in 2024?
No. I mean, look, when you can, just listen to whatever you want to listen to on Spotify or Apple Music.
Yeah.
Why are you going to, buy a or make your own album.
Does anyone here
one
still
of these.
buy physical music?
I'm on Spotify.
Romaine, I live in Brooklyn, so we have a nice expanding vinyl collection. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's right.
What was the
You're
last
hipster.
vinyl record?
Now, do you actually listen to them, or you just put them on display?
No, we listen. We listen.
Okay.
It's actually really fun for the kids to kind of like put a record on.
Like, look,
The
this is a
kids.
record
Oh, yeah.
player.
Yeah.
Don't scratch your kids.
We have an extra needle in the drawer for that very reason. Got to get them started on the turntables young. You guys know that.
I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I
There's
tried to
nothing like the sound of
indoctrinate
vinyl. Nothing like the sound of vinyl. Hey, you guys have a great weekend. Get some sleep before that election on Tuesday. And if you're in the marathon, best of luck to all of you running in the marathon.
Change your
Thanks for
clocks,
coming
too. Change your clocks.
to New York City. And don't forget to change your clocks. We will see you same time, almost same time, definitely same place on Monday.